The anti-YC thesis, when philosophical alignment matters more than billion-dollar outcomes. Every funding source comes with a culture attached, and that culture has a cost. A question I've only recently started asking myself, long before any pitch deck, application form, or term sheet, is whether an investor's world actually matches the experience I really want to have. This is fundamentally a journey versus destination type consideration, and I think it's one that the vast majority of entrepreneurs ignore. The default advice is simple: raise from the best, get into Y Combinator, move to San Francisco, surround yourself with the most financially ambitious people on earth. The logic is clean: better network, better signal, better outcomes. I've come to strongly disagree, not with the logic, but with the premise. The premise assumes that the only variable worth optimizing for is the probability of a billion-dollar outcome. And if that's genuinely your single priority, then yes, YC is probably the right call. The data supports it, the alumni network is extraordinary, the brand opens doors that stay closed for everyone else, so on and so forth. But walking through those doors has a cost, and it's not financial, it's philosophical. What you actually absorb. Y Combinator is not just a program, it's a culture, a geography, and a specific set of assumptions about what building a company should look like. It assumes you want to live in San Francisco, or at least that you are willing to. It assumes you want to spend your time with YC people, absorb YC values, operate on YC timelines. None of this is hidden, it is the product. And for a lot of founders, that product is exactly what they want. They thrive in it. The density of ambition, the pace, the constant proximity to people who think in terms of scale and speed. That environment is genuinely transformative for certain personalities and certain kinds of companies. As it turns out, though, I'm not one of those people. I'd rather not optimize for trying to build a billion-dollar company than spend my time in San Francisco surrounded by people whose definition of success I don't share. That's not defeatism. It's a form of clarity, which it took me a lot of work and a long time to arrive at, about what my motivations are and what I actually value. Clarity equals trust. I use that phrase often in the context of branding, but it applies just as well to funding decisions. If you aren't clear on what you're optimizing for, you end up optimizing for someone else's version of success. And by the time you notice, you're deep into a life you didn't choose. Good luck trusting the process at that point. What prestige funding actually buys. When you take money from a prestigious accelerator or fund, you're not just receiving capital, you're entering a relationship with a set of expectations. Those expectations shape decisions in ways that are very, very easy to underestimate from the outside. The geography matters. San Francisco is expensive, intense, and culturally specific. If your life is in Cambridge or Lisbon, relocating is not a logistical inconvenience. It's a fundamental change to how you spend your days, who you see, and what you prioritize. The peer group matters. YC batches are designed to be competitive and high velocity. That's a feature, not a bug, for the right person. But for someone who might build best with space, patience, and a slower rhythm of iteration, that environment can be corrosive rather than catalytic. The incentive structure also matters. YC is optimized for manufacturing supercharged venture-scale outcomes. The entire model depends on a small number of companies returning the fund many times over. That means the advice you receive, the metrics you're encouraged to track, and the definition of progress you absorb will all be calibrated toward rapid scale. If your ambition is simply to build something profitable, sustainable, and deeply good at what it does, you may find yourself constantly swimming against the current of the program's own logic. None of this is a criticism of YC, it's an observation about fit. The alternative is not settling. There's an assumption embedded in the raise from the best advice, that choosing a different path is choosing a lesser one, that if you do not apply to YC, you're either not ambitious enough or not good enough. This framing is wrong and it costs people years. Alignment is the concept that matters most here. The best investor for your company isn't the one with the biggest brand. It's the one whose thesis and model of success most closely matches yours and whose value proposition best matches to your needs and wants. If you want to build a venture-scale business in the Bay Area, YC is probably the best fit on the planet. If you want to build something excellent on your own terms, in a place you actually want to live, with people whose values and character traits you genuinely share, then the best investor is likely to be someone else entirely. The conviction test. I think about this as a conviction test, not Can I get in? But do I actually want what comes with getting in? Most founder discourse skips this mission-critical question. The assumption is that any rational person would want YC if they could get it, and the only interesting question is how to maximize your chances. But that assumption treats founders as interchangeable units of ambition, differing only in ability. It ignores the fact that fundamentally different people start companies for fundamentally different reasons, and those reasons should inform every structural decision that follows. Some people start companies because they want to build something enormous, some because they want to solve a specific problem, some because they want autonomy and craft, some because they want to prove something to themselves, some because they want to prove something to others. These motivations are simply different, and they lead to different optimal funding structures, different geographies, different timescales, different tribes, and different definitions of success. The conventional advice collapses all of this into a single ladder. Raise from the best, grow as fast as possible, aim for the biggest outcome. That ladder works brilliantly for a specific kind of founder. For everyone else, it creates quiet pressure to optimize for outcomes they never actually wanted. What I am actually optimizing for. I want to build something that is genuinely good at what it does and connects meaningfully with those who interact with it. I want to do it from a place I choose to live, with people I respect and whose company I enjoy, at a pace that allows for depth rather than just speed. I want the freedom to make decisions based on what I think is right, not what a program's incentive structure requires. That means forgoing certain advantages. The YC network is real, the signal it sends to future investors is real, what it does for your CV is real, the acceleration it provides is real. I'm not pretending those things don't matter. But the alignment cost is also real, and for me it's too high. This isn't a universal prescription, it's a specific position held with conviction. If YC and other entities like it are the ideal environment for a particular founder, they should pursue it with everything they have. But that quiet resistance some founders might feel, where something about the geography or the culture or the pace does not sit right, isn't a lack of ambition. It might be the clearest signal available about what they are actually building for. Thanks for listening. If this piece added something to your week, please consider subscribing.